The ballroom glittered with gold chandeliers and laughter. Everyone dressed like they owned the world. But in the far corner, a little white boy sat alone in a wheelchair, staring at the dancers as if they belonged to another planet. No one noticed him, except Keisha, a black waitress balancing a tray of champagne. Something in his sad eyes pulled her heart closer than the music ever could. She set the tray down, took a breath, and walked toward him. "Hey, little man," she said softly, kneeling beside him. "Mind if I borrow you for a dance?" He blinked, confused. "Me?" "Yeah, you," she smiled. "You look like the only gentleman here brave enough to dance with me." The boy hesitated. I can't. My legs don't work right." Keisha leaned closer, her voice warm. "Then we'll make them listen together." She unlocked his wheelchair brakes, held out her hand, and whispered, "One step at a time, sweetheart." As the orchestra played, she helped him stand, just for a moment, and the entire ballroom froze. Every eye turned. Every whisper carried judgment. But Keisha didn't care. For the first time in his life, the boy smiled while standing on his own feet. If it's already made your blood boil, hit like and subscribe right now, because stories like this are still happening, and the world needs to hear them. Gasps spread through the ballroom like fire in dry grass. Champagne glasses froze midair, and the string quartet stumbled over its notes. Keisha held Ryan steady, her arm around his trembling shoulders, whispering, "You're doing great, baby, one more step." But the whispers grew louder. "Who let the help touch the guests?" one woman muttered. "She's going to hurt him." Another hissed. Keisha pretended not to hear, focusing on the boy's tiny movements. His left foot scraped the marble. His right foot tried to follow. For him, it wasn't clumsy, it was victory. Up on the balcony, Ethan, the billionaire host and Ryan's father, stood frozen with a drink in his hand. The color drained from his face as he watched his fragile son struggle upright beside a waitress in a black vest. Fear knotted into anger. His glass slammed against the rail, cracking the room into silence. "Ryan," he barked. The boy flinched. Keisha instinctively steadied him. Ethan descended the stairs, each step echoing louder than the music. The crowd parted as if royalty was marching through the peasants. "What do you think you're doing?" he demanded. His voice sliced through the hall. Keisha straightened but didn't let go. He wanted to dance. You could have crippled him. Ethan snapped. "You're here to serve drinks, not play savior." The music died completely. Only Ryan's trembling breath filled the space. Keisha's heart pounded, but she didn't flinch. "Sir, I didn't mean, you didn't think." Ethan cut her off sharply. "My son's spine is still healing, and you decided to risk his life for what? A photo? A little attention?" Murmurs rippled through the guests. Some stared with pity, others with quiet satisfaction, waiting for the waitress to shrink away. But Keisha didn't bow her head. She turned to Ryan, who now sat back in his wheelchair, tears brimming. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," she whispered. Ryan shook his head weakly. "Don't be. You helped me." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Ryan, enough. You have no idea what could have happened." Keisha stepped back, trembling but proud. "You're right, sir. I don't have your money, but I do have eyes. And I saw a boy who just wanted to feel human for 5 seconds." The room went still. Ethan's breath caught, fury and guilt worn behind his stare. He slammed his glass onto a table, the sharp crack echoing like a gunshot. And then a sudden metallic snap. Someone screamed. The massive chandelier above the dance floor trembled, one of its golden chains breaking loose. Keisha's instincts took over. She lunged forward, grabbed Ryan's chair, and shoved it away with every ounce of strength she had. The chandelier crashed down behind them, glass exploding like rain. The crowd scattered in terror. When the dust cleared, Ryan was safe. Keisha lay bleeding on the marble, her body shielding the boy. If this happened right in front of you, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. And if you want justice as much as I do, hit subscribe. Sirens wailed outside the Ritz ballroom. Red and blue lights flickered through the shattered glass as paramedics rushed in. Keisha's uniform was torn, her arm gashed, but her body had shielded Ryan from the worst of it. Ethan knelt beside her, pale and shaking. For the first time, his power meant nothing. "She saved me," Ryan cried, clutching her hand. "Dad, she saved me." Ethan swallowed hard, his voice breaking. "I know, buddy. I know." As medics lifted Keisha onto a stretcher, whispers floated again, but this time they sounded different. She risked her life for him. That woman's a hero. Hours later, Ethan sat in the hospital waiting room, his tuxedo stained with dust and guilt. Ryan had fallen asleep on his shoulder, still clutching a broken crystal from the chandelier. Ethan stared at the floor, hearing Keisha's words replay in his mind. "I saw a boy who just wanted to feel human." A nurse approached quietly. "She's stable, Mr. Hayes. A few stitches, a mild concussion. She'll be okay." Ethan exhaled shakily. Relief and shame tangled in his chest. He looked at his son and whispered, "Tomorrow, we're bringing her flowers." The next morning, sunlight spilled to the hospital window, turning everything gold. Keisha stirred, her head bandaged, body sore, but spirit still strong. She blinked, and there they were. Ethan stood near the door in a wrinkled suit, and Ryan held a bouquet of sunflowers almost bigger than his face. "Hey, Miss Keisha," Ryan said shyly. "These are sunshine flowers. You like them?" Her lips curved into a weak smile. "They're beautiful, baby. You didn't have to bring me all this." Ethan stepped forward, his voice quieter than last night's rage. "We did, and I owe you an apology." Keisha raised an eyebrow. "For almost firing me, or for yelling like I stole your chandelier?" That drew a faint laugh from Ryan, and even Ethan cracked a smile. "Both," he admitted. "You saved my son when I was too blinded by fear to see what mattered." "Thank you." She looked at him, steady. "I wasn't brave, Mr. Hayes. I just did what anyone with a heart would do." "No," Ethan said softly. "You did what most wouldn't." Ryan wheeled closer. "Can you help me walk again? Like yesterday?" Keisha hesitated, eyes soft. "If your dad says it's okay." Ethan nodded. "It's more than okay." And for the first time, they all smiled, not as Waitress and Billionaire, but as people learning to trust each other. Weeks passed, and the sound of laughter began to replace the quiet in Ethan's mansion. Every morning, Keisha arrived early, helping Ryan through his therapy. The boy's legs were still weak, but his spirit, stronger than ever. One step, then another, Keisha coached. "You're not walking, baby. You're flying." Ryan giggled, wobbling forward. "I'm flying crooked." "Then we'll straighten your wings," she teased. From the doorway, Ethan watched in silence. Gone was the cold man who once lived for control and wealth. Now, he was a father learning to see. Outside, cameras waited news crews, headlines calling Keisha the hero waitress. When reporters shouted questions, Ethan finally spoke up. "She's not a waitress anymore," he said firmly. "She's family, the woman who reminded me what courage looks like." The clip went viral within hours. Millions watched the billionaire defend the woman he once yelled at. For the first time, the world saw him not as powerful, but human. That evening, Keisha sat beside Ryan in the therapy room. "You ready for your surprise?" she asked. He grinned. "Is it cake?" "Better," she said, stepping back. "Show him, champ." Ryan pushed himself up, slowly, trembling, and took 5 solid steps toward his father. Ethan's eyes filled. The boy whispered, "See, Daddy? She taught me to dance again." The following weekend, the grand ballroom reopened, restored, gleaming, but forever marked by what had happened there. Reporters filled the corners, guests whispered, and under the golden light, Ethan, Keisha, and Ryan entered together. Ryan's small hands gripped his walker. He looked up at his father. "Can I try again?" Ethan smiled softly. "You don't need my permission anymore, son. You got this." Keisha knelt beside him, eyes warm. "Remember what I told you? The music's not in your legs, it's in your heart." Ryan nodded, took a deep breath, and stepped forward. One step, then another. The crowd went silent. A tear slipped down Keisha's cheek as Ryan let go of the walker for half a second. standing tall on his own. Cameras flashed, but no one saw fame, only faith. Ethan walked over, resting a hand on Keisha's shoulder. "You didn't just help him walk," he said quietly. "You helped both of us stand again." She smiled. Guess the music never really stopped. Ryan laughed, wobbling into her arms. "We did it, Miss Keisha." She hugged him tight. "No, sweetheart, you did. If you believe this should never happen again, share this now. And to my USA, UK, and Canadian viewers, your voice is power. Use it.